The storm had swallowed the mountains whole that night, burying every trail and whisper beneath an ocean of white silence. The stagecoach that carried Evelyn Grace had broken an axle 2 miles back, and the driver's shouts had long vanished into the blizzard. Wrapped in a thin shawl, she stumbled through the howling wind. Her small hands trembling as snow clung to her lashes like frost-bitten tears. She was a mail-order bride from the East, promised to a man she'd never met, except fate had other plans. Through the blur of snow, 2 shadows emerged from the trees, towering figures, broad-shouldered and wild-eyed, their breath steaming like smoke from a forge. They were brothers, Caleb and Boone McAllister, mountain men who lived where no law dared reach. They looked at her not with cruelty, but curiosity, the kind born from long winters of isolation and silence. "You'll satisfy us both," Caleb said, not a threat but a strange vow that carried something deeper than hunger. Evelyn's heart leapt, not from fear but confusion, for there was warmth in his voice, a promise of protection wrapped in rugged pride. They led her through the storm, their heavy coats brushing against her as she stumbled beside them. The cabin they brought her to was rough-hewn, its walls breathing smoke and pine. Inside, the firelight painted their faces in shades of gold and shadow. 2 men who had built their world with their own hands, and a woman who didn't yet know she would change it. Boone handed her a blanket, his eyes avoiding hers, as if afraid to see the trembling hope she carried. Caleb stirred a pot over the fire, glancing back now and then with quiet concern. "You came a long way to find someone," he said. She nodded, her voice cracking like thin ice. "Yes, but I think I lost him." A heavy silence settled, only broken by the crackle of wood. Outside, the storm screamed against the cabin walls, but inside, time seemed to slow. Caleb looked to his brother, then back at her. "Then maybe you were meant to find us instead." The words hung between them, gentle but weighted with destiny. Evelyn felt the ache of her loneliness thawing in that room, the first warmth she'd known in months. She wasn't sure whether to cry or smile, so she did neither. She just sat near the fire, listening to the rhythm of the wind and the quiet heartbeats of the 2 men who had rescued her from the edge of death. Hours passed. Boone mended her torn sleeve with clumsy patience, his fingers trembling when they brushed her skin. Caleb placed a tin mug in her hands, his voice low. "Drink this. It'll warm you." She sipped, and the bitter taste of herbs filled her tongue, but the heat spread fast, calming the storm inside her chest. They talked softly after that, about the mountains, the rivers, the wolves that howled beyond the ridge. Boone spoke rarely, but when he did, his words carried the weight of someone who'd seen too much and learned to speak only when it mattered. Evelyn found herself smiling, surprised by how natural it felt. For the first time, she wasn't someone's purchase, someone's promise. She was simply a woman alive among men who understood silence. By dawn, the storm had passed. The world outside glittered with ice and sun, 1,000 diamonds spread across the snow. When she stepped outside, the air bit her skin, but she didn't shiver. Caleb stood beside her, watching the horizon, while Boone chopped wood nearby, his strength carving through the morning stillness. "You don't have to go back," Caleb said softly. "Not unless you want to." She turned, her breath catching as sunlight caught the edges of his beard, turning it copper red. "And if I stay?" she asked. His eyes met hers, fierce yet kind. "Then you'll never face another storm alone." In that moment, Evelyn knew her life had shifted forever, not from comfort or fear, but from choice. She had been sold once, but now she was finding her worth in the wild heart of the mountains. The wind brushed her hair, carrying away the last trace of the girl who left the east and bringing forth the woman who would rise again in the west. And though the world outside was cold and merciless, inside that cabin a fire had begun that no snow could ever drown.